And thank you for joining us tonight. We're going to call this meeting to order. First, we're going to stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance, and then a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen.
Could have brought Scott up here.
6 seconds.
Yeah, I could have
We had
brought
a
Scott up here. That's right. I missed the opportunity. Can I get a roll call, please?
Stan Schmidt,
Here.
Scott Stager,
Here.
Mark Foley,
Here.
Maria Mills Bennett,
Here.
Bobo Gamey,
I'm here.
Lance Green,
Here.
Thomas Jordan,
Here.
And consideration of the minutes, gentlemen.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
I have a comment. I would like to go to page 6 on our packet when it says Commissioner Green stated that the project was a good idea, but Madeline Avenue would be expanded, and that was to be Williamson Avenue, not Madeline. That's all I have.
Williamson,
Correct.
All right, we have a motion. Can we get a second with the change?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Stan Schmidt,
Yes.
Scott Stager,
Yes.
Mark Foley,
Yes.
Maria Mills Bennett,
Yes.
Bobo Gamey,
Yes.
Lance Green,
Yes.
Thomas Jordan,
Yes.
All right, first item on our agenda tonight, and I'm assured the reason for such a full room. I love it when it's a happy full room, not an angry full room. Case number CUSE-24-0001, conditional use extension for Christ the King Community Church.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you.
Good evening, how's everybody doing?
Good, how are you?
Suzette Cameron, Planning, Community Development. As stated in the application, this is a conditional use extension request to allow Christ the King Community Church to continue to operate outdoors for an additional 2 years through July of 2026, while the permanent fellowship hall is constructed on site. The subject property is located on the southeast corner of Spruce Creek Road and Central Park Boulevard, just south of All Children's Park. In the fall of 2019, the property rezoned from residential to government public use, GPU, to allow the applicant to move forward with designing the site to be developed as a church. During this time, the church was holding services at South Cypress Creek Elementary School. However, COVID hit in 2020. The church shifted its location from the school to the subject property where they started holding outdoor services. To do so in a permitted fashion, staff worked with the church and recommended they apply for a conditional use temporary to allow them to hold outdoor services while they design their permanent facility. In March 2022, the City Council approved an additional 2-year extension to allow the church to continue to use the site as the church constructed their permanent facility. The church had previously anticipated construction would begin in the fall of 2022 and completed in early of 2024. The current conditional use expires July 21st of 2024. According to the church, finances and construction industry delays prevented construction from starting as previously anticipated. Therefore, the church is requesting an additional 2 years extension of the conditional use to continue holding outdoor services and other church-related programs and meetings on the subject property until the permanent facility is completed. According to the church, the construction is anticipated to start the summer of 2024 and completed in 2025. Staff recommends approval of the subject to the conditions listed in your staff report. The applicant is here if you have any questions.
Awesome. Questions for staff? Stan?
No.
Scott?
Nope.
Mark?
No.
Tom?
Nope.
Lance?
Have any plans been submitted yet as far as for building permit?
not building permit site.
The site plan was submitted today through our online SmartGov services, but no building permits to date.
Okay, thank you.
Bo? Is the applicant gonna speak to us? Sure. Come on up, Scott.
Be happy to speak. Well, good evening. For the record, Scott Kirshner, pastor of Christ the King Community Church. How are you this evening? Okay, I'll take that as a good. I appreciate your attention and your help with this. We, in the planning of our church, never thought we would be meeting outdoors for 4 consecutive years. It wasn't in my 5-year plan, but I found that what I can afford and what I can always have are not the same thing, as you may have found out as well. We had anticipated already having our building underway, but May of 2022, when the costs were through the roof for labor and materials and unavailable materials, we decided to focus our attention more on paying off our property rather than getting into a unsizable amount of debt that we could not afford. And so we did that. This last year we were able to pay off our property. And so we're happy to be the proud owners of that lot at 6015 Spruce Creek Road. We have also been saving up towards our building. We have got a final approval on our loan finally. That is set to close before the end of March. And we have submitted our site plans, and meanwhile all the architectural drawings and all of that are moving forward. So I hope and anticipate that we will be breaking ground in May. But obviously our building will not be done by the summer of 2024, this summer, before our conditional usage expires. So we're asking for that extension to see us all the way through the construction, and we will be happy to have our home finally built. And so I just appreciate your consideration. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Questions for Scott, Bo?
None.
Lance?
Do you guys have a contractor yet?
We do, yes.
Okay, and you
Mhm.
guys are under contract?
We're
with a
under
contractor?
contract, paid the first $125,000 to them already, and yeah, so.
And design is being
Design
finalized
is being finalized, yes. We have floor plans that are being somewhat adjusted, but elevations, floor plans, so all that's underway.
My concern with this would be, Scott, is that I don't know that it's going to be realistic that you're going to start in May,
Mhm.
because building permits take a long,
Well, maybe-
much longer.
maybe
And
that's
my thought would be
unrealistic, but I
is
appreciate-
2 years enough? And
Mhm.
you know, that would be my only concern, is 2 years enough?
Well, I'm happy to ask for
You know what I'm
a
saying?
final,
So-
another year to that if you feel like. I know we had this conversation before, and you know, it was like, was 2 years enough before? I thought so, but in the world that we live in, that's not very realistic. So,
Right. Yeah, I'm
if,
just, again,
if you
but
guys
you're
are
under
willing to
contract
grant
and
a
you're-
third year, I would be happy to have that put in the writing.
Well, I mean, it depends on when you submit, is going to be based on when you're going to get done.
hmm
So,
Like I said, site plans have been submitted, architectural renderings, and all the building plans should be submitted within the next 30 days, 45 days. So
okay.
maybe it'll be summer before we
Hopefully
break
you
ground.
can say a prayer and the building official will slip you to the front of the road.
Well,
Okay,
we're
thank
not looking for any special attention, but we are praying about it, I can tell you that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, my only comment is about the same thing. It's your timeframes. You've gone 4 years now. We're on what, the second extension here,
hmm
and as Lance said, timeframes don't happen as fast as you want them
Yeah,
to.
I'm learning
So,
that.
Yeah, I mean, based on you just conveniently turned in the site plan today.
Well, it's been under work for many years. In fact, we had a site plan that was submitted previously in May of 2022 that got all the way through the initial meetings, but we got to the point where, yeah, our site plan was almost approved, but we couldn't afford what the building cost came in at. The building cost came in at $3.5 million, and we weren't prepared to take that kind of debt on. So we put the pause on everything. So we had to kind of go back to the drawing boards with our site plans, and this has been 6 months in the making. So,
But I understand, so you just submitted new ones, but you
Yes.
still don't have financing approved?
we do have financing approved.
It is
Yes.
approved?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yes.
so that's all good to go? You
Yep.
got a contractor?
We have a contractor.
Okay.
Yep.
All right,
Mhm. Yep.
thanks.
Appreciate it.
Mark?
Yeah, has the contractor put this out to bid yet? Has he got any
Yes,
bids?
he's working on bids.
Okay, and did he give you an anticipated time to start?
Well, yes, I mean, he's hoping that by the summertime, but, so,
Okay. And did he
Again,
give
that's-
you an idea of how long it was gonna take to construct?
it's gonna be a steel building that will have, an exterior that meets all the requirements for the city, so, those go up pretty quick, but it's the finished work that's gonna take the time, so,
Okay.
I
And you
anticipate a
said you're
year.
closing on your loan in March,
Mhm.
but you're not gonna break ground until when?
Well, I mean, whenever they're ready, they have to, if the site plan is approved, they can begin breaking ground and doing the site work while the, all the building permitting and everything is done. We have our footprint, we have our elevations, we have the floor plan,
Okay.
but it's all the fine details that have to be
All right.
approved and permitted.
I was looking at your plan and you've got some structures that are gonna take an awful lot of lead time in regards to, the shop drawings and everything else, so realistically, I don't think June or July you're gonna be able to get this done, because by the time you get the bids back on your site
Mhm.
and you award that site, then you gotta go through, everything else and get these under construction. We're talking 6 weeks, 8 weeks to get those done.
Mhm.
And you're not gonna be able to break ground until that happens.
Okay,
Okay, so, I'm not sure if we need a third year, but I think it might be a good suggestion. What we don't wanna do is 2
I
years from now,
understand.
be doing this again,
sure,
okay?
yeah, I appreciate that,
All right?
thank you.
And you held off on the construction, because of the amount of the high rates of financing, basically?
Well,
So
it
you
was
paid off your
multiple
mortgage?
things. It was the
Okay.
materials weren't available, and if they were, you'd have to wait, 9 months to get them.
Okay.
So labor costs were through the roof, material costs, all of that has begun to level out, although it has not come back down to
No, I
the
don't
rate it
think
was
it's come
before.
down.
So it has come down some, but,
But I'm thinking primarily the financing, the rate of interest that you could have got 2 years ago as opposed to now,
Yeah.
probably that slowed you down a little bit.
yeah.
Okay. All right, I just wanna make sure that we're asking for the right thing, and if we're gonna approve 2 years or 3 years, I wanna make sure that we're approving the right thing. So,
I don't know what that would take if you feel, I mean, you guys work in this industry more than I do as far as construction goes, so,
where's I'm
We'll
I'm
get,
not sure.
we'll get to that.
Okay,
Are you finished?
yeah, I'm done.
Scott?
I live right down the street from the church. I've attended a wedding there. Traffic has never been an issue. It is wonderful to see all the people out there congregating under the trees and the lights, and it's
It looks
been
beautiful.
a pleasure to see it go through. I would support a third year if the committee feels that that's necessary to get everything through.
I appreciate that, thank you. We take pride in our property and do our best to make it something that's inviting for the community.
Stan?
I think I read in here that your contractor is from Jacksonville, is that correct?
No, he's out of Sanford.
Yeah.
Sanford, okay.
Mhm.
I was just kinda wondering, not only can they do it, but it's also getting the subcontractors and all that lined up and on board,
Mhm.
cause that can be an issue. at
He has a lot of
times.
subcontractors in-house that he works with,
Okay.
so, yeah.
So he's got people he can kinda control,
Mhm,
which
yep.
is, that kinda goes back to what some of these other fellows have been talking about. If we can do a third year, that might be the thing to do, but it's up to the legal department to tell us what's going on with that.
Well, so I had a lot of the same questions. I just wanted to know if you had submitted for building permits yet, because I was also concerned about the timeline. I too love the property. I think you guys have done a beautiful job out there. It looks great. It's not like it's any hindrance, I don't think, on the neighborhood or any surroundings.
Mhm.
So I have no problem generally, but I would like to know what it would look like. How could we add a third year to this? Could we add a third year to this? If they don't use all 3 years, no big deal, right? But if they need it, they have it.
Mhm.
And I'm not sure if that's a you question, if that's a Penny question, or a Tim question, or is it even possible? It is possible. So how would
Probably
we?
need to modify the motion, or, because amend the motion, I believe, because there's a motion and a second already out there.
Correct.
2 year, 2 or 3 year?
Mhm.
Yes, so
So we need someone to probably move to amend the motion.
Madam Chairman, I move that we amend this motion to make it a 3-year period rather than a 2-year period.
second.
I will second it again.
Yeah, I think that was a good idea, Lance, for us to possibly do that and see if we could extend it out a little bit. So, no further questions for
I have
Scott?
another question.
Go for it.
So, let's go 6, 8 months down the road, and all of a sudden, yahoo, we got a permit and we're going to work. What's gonna happen? Are you gonna just kinda cordon off where the building is and still utilize the site and so on during the build as well?
Yeah.
How's that gonna integrate in with, are you gonna box out where the build, because the building's kinda over on the side, if you will.
It's,
and-
the building goes closer to the wetlands in the back, and it's closer to the farm that's to our south.
Right, I'm
So
looking at-
it's a
yeah.
little more, further back there, so it doesn't impede on, in fact, the outdoor chapel area has some beautiful specimen trees that we hope to keep and for many, many years to come. And so we've incorporated into that master site plan to keep that space and to protect those trees and have
And that's what
parking
you're gonna
around them.
utilize all
So,
through the build, et
yes,
cetera,
mhm,
right?
yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
all right, thank you.
I do have a question. I read in the write-up that you have a 10 by 10 limitation on tents when you're having services during inclement weather.
Mm-hmm.
How does that work? I mean,
Yeah, we don't meet out on the property when the weather. In fact, out of the last 4 weeks, 3 of those we've had to meet indoors. We use Spruce Creek Elementary School. We rent their cafeteria, and so when it's below 40 degrees or it's wet, like it has been this last weekend, we go indoors.
I see.
Yeah.
So you don't ever anticipate doing that?
Well, I mean,
Next
no,
3
it's
years.
it's expensive. It's
Yeah.
there's not enough time when you find out the weather forecast is going to be rainy. There's not enough time to coordinate sometimes, and so it's just easier. We already have a relationship over at Spruce Creek Elementary and just use their facilities.
In the event you ever did that, how many people would that accommodate?
At the cafeteria?
No, the tent.
Well, I mean, we've never really met under a tent at all. The tents are just to protect our sound equipment and our IT area, so it's very minimal. We've never had a large tent out there other than they've done it for weddings, they've had a reception inside, but that's about it.
Yeah, I was scratching my head over that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, back on subject here, let's, thank you, Scott. If nobody has anything else for him, we'll take some comments from the public.
Great,
If
thank
anybody
you.
needs to speak to this, please come up, state your name and your address. You get 3 minutes to speak.
Hi, good evening. My name is Philip Ryan Reynolds, and I live at 6014 Spruce Creek Road. So I'm right across the street. I would just ask that, I really want the church to build their building. I'm across the street. Every single Sunday, I have a concert going on during the morning time that I can't escape from. So there's frustrations, And I've asked for the music to come down, and it does, but then it slowly creeps back up. So I just am confused about the ask for 3 years, because then it's just prolonging the inevitable. That, are they going to build a church? I want them to build a church, trust me. But if we keep adding time, then what more excuses are there going to be 3 years from now? And for the driveway to be directly reflected on my house, I don't really like that either. Because at nighttime, what happens? I have headlights in my face all night long. So is it up to me to reposition everything in my house as far as my living area so that way this doesn't impact me and my family? I'm just, I love Scott. He's a great dude. I love that they have outdoor services. I think it's great. I just want the actual building of the church to be real and to happen sooner rather than later. Because it's not fair to everyone, my neighbors, to the right, to the left, to the fire department across from that property. For all of us, for the Farmwalds who sold their house and then somebody else has occupied that house. Why did they leave? Those people were here for a long time. But ironically enough, they put their house up for sale when the church started having services outside. So, like I said, nothing against these people. They're all great people. I get that. But at what point do we just keep going beyond what do you guys expect? And not just say, okay, you've had 4 years. You've been meeting since February of 2020. Costs are not going to go down. Building materials are not going to go down. Let's build the church and let's be done with it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, Mike Rayburn, 3578 Sugar Plum Lane, Port Orange. Been going to the church a little over 2 years now. I think when you look at, no disrespect to this gentleman, when you look at it, yes, building costs have come down significantly, for at least for what we're doing. Project was over $3 million, a year or two ago. We put the brakes on it. It's down to the low 2 millions, about $2 million now, so the prices have come down substantially. Anybody who was involved at all in the construction industry, banking industry, finance industry in the last 3 years, 4 years since COVID shut the world down for a few months knows a lot of things slowed down, a lot of things got postponed. We do have a approval from a lender. We're ready to go. That's a big hurdle to overcome. I know Mark knows that. I'm a banker myself, so that's a big hurdle for a small church, not denominational, to overcome. We've got that in place. The church has been growing while we've been meeting outside. The other thing is I'm not really sure what the gentleman was talking about lights in the driveway at night a lot. We have maybe 2 evening services throughout the year. We have a Christmas Eve service and we have a Good Friday service. Everything else is pretty much during the daytime. So I'm not sure where the lights in the driveway are coming from. But I think we're in the final leg of getting this thing done, and I appreciate your consideration for helping us move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for staff?
I do. I guess I wanna take this another step further and I wanna integrate some of this gentleman's things, but I guess what I would like to see is some deadlines. Can we get submitted for a building permit in a certain amount of time? Obviously the length of the permit is within the city, that's their issue, but to just have it open-ended, to say, yeah, we're gonna build it, or yeah, we're gonna submit a thing for permit, we're not there yet. And so, and I'm in the business, so I'm just telling you, in my feelings, they're not where they need to be to say, yeah, we're going to work. We're not going to work in the summer. I'm just gonna tell you, that's my opinion. We're not going to work in the summer. But there needs to be some type of criteria that says, look, we're gonna submit for a building permit by a certain date. And then we'll break ground by a certain date, but right now, we don't have any dates and any certainty to the extension.
Penelope Cruz, Planning. So I just want to clarify that they actually did get their site plan fully approved. They have a development order. During that time, they have decided, because of the cost and everything else, to make some minor modifications to the plan to actually make it better, to plan for the full 2-phase, like for the future extension as well, and get it all done now. They got that plan submitted in today. So like I said, we've already approved the site plan. They have submitted today a modification to that site plan. It will not take staff very long to review that.
I'm not worried about the site plan.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, once the site plan's approved, they can start working on the site, and then their building is a steel building, modular building, it's not the normal kind of construction that takes longer time.
But I know how long it takes to get a building permit in the city of Port Orange.
A lot of it is prefab, correct? So we can't really put a time frame to submittal, a deadline for that, but I can tell you that they'll be able to start their site work. I think that they should have no problem starting their site work by this summer, because like I said, the site plan approval is not going to take long, and then your site plan is your development order is good for a year. So they have to get moving with building permits and getting forward and moving on things.
I understand that, and I understand what the site plan process is, I do. But I also understand the building process. and what it takes to get all your plans, your engineering, through plans exam and approved, ready to get a building going. I don't care about the site. I want it, like I said, I want to see the building go up. I don't care about the site. So I want some dates on the building.
Close to getting that submitted to?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, sir.
Well,
You
let me
say
do-
your plans are being done. Are your plans near done? Are they near being stamped to be able to submit for a permit?
So let me just rewind a little bit so you have a little bit of history on the building part of it. We initially were going to go with Steel Masters out of Edgewater. Derwin, I think his
Know him
name
well.
is. Yeah. So, but when we had to back off, then we went with a different building contractor. But again, he was responsible for all the ins and out of that steel manufacturing, the plans. The floor plans, however, HVAC, plumbing, electrical, lighting, for all of that have been done and engineered. We've paid for all of that already. We've been, as we've gone along, paid for all of these things. So those things will have minor modifications, but they're quite a ways along in those. The schematics for the steel building itself, again, which is a prefab steel building, those are in process. But I hear what you're saying, and I hear what Ryan's saying as well, and I'm sensitive to that. I know that I appreciate and love and pray for him and his family all the time, and I hear him, and I don't want to discount what he's saying because he's the neighbor who's most affected by it. And so, and just so you know, that driveway is going to be shifted over away in the master site plan further from your house. So just so you know that, and we are working on it, man. Trust me, this wasn't my plan to be outside for 4 years, but it's been what just has happened, and it's not. I understand you've been very patient, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate your kind words. But so we're happy to keep pushing forward. We have for a long time. You know, we've spent a lot of money, not just in the building, but all the architecture, engineering, surveys, topography. I mean, we've spent a lot of money, and it's all been cash paid for. So we have no debt right now. We've got our loan approved, which wasn't done before. We're closing on that loan. Our builder has his first, amount of money. So we're moving on that. But, like as far as deadlines, I mean, we're pushing forward. Now it's a different situation than it was before when we came before you. We had none of that before.
Okay.
So
All right.
I hope that gives assurances to you all and to my friend here. So,
Thank you.
okay?
So we can't put any deadlines on it anyway, so we need to move forward with what we planned.
Can I ask Penny a question?
Sure.
Penny, any idea how soon we can have a pre-construction meeting?
So, like I said, the plans just came in. It'll go to the next scheduled DRC. So, we're still getting the complete submittal in. I think it'll probably go to SDRC March 20th, I believe, something like that.
Okay.
I mean, I could anticipate, because the engineer they have working on it is very responsive. Talk to him all the time. So kind of inside joke, calls me a lot. So I could probably see us being able to hopefully be able to issue a development order after the first resubmittal. It might take like one resubmittal to address some cleanup things, if that.
Best case scenario, middle
So,
of April?
maybe mid-April, maybe
Okay.
end of April, mid-April, somewhere around there, possibly. I can't say for sure, but, being positive about it. Because like I said, we've already thoroughly reviewed this site. It's just a modification, so it shouldn't take as many submittals. Mhm.
Scott, can I ask you another question?
Sure, absolutely.
Penny?
You're closing on your loan
Oh, never mind.
in March, correct?
Yes.
And I assume that there's a first draw is gonna go to the GC.
We've actually, so as part of our agreement with this loan organization, which is a Christian loan organization, we put the first $300,000 down, which we have already put the first $125,000 down. We have
Okay.
the remaining amount of that already to be submitted to the contractor as is needed. And so, but yeah, we're in on all of that.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right, well,
So it's not like they're waiting for the loan to close for them to do the work. We've already submitted our first $125,000 and have the other $175,000 in reserve, ready for them as they need it to do all of their work.
so you're putting that in
So we're
reserve
so we're
and
working
escrow.
simultaneously on site work and construction and the all the architecture
Architecture
for
and
the
all that kind of
building,
stuff.
permitting and everything.
Okay. Well, as Mike can attest to, one of the best things about banking is as soon as you close that loan, that interest starts accruing
Right.
7 days a week, 24 hours a day. It's a
I understand.
wonderful thing.
Yeah, can't wait.
But, so when you do close on that, that's gonna give them, as a comment here, that'll give them an extra incentive to get this thing done. in
Yeah,
less time than
our
what we
first
thought.
year is our first 12 months are interest only on that. You know,
Okay.
obviously as draws are made, and then it starts with the payments. But yeah,
Okay,
and it's our hope and prayer that we'll have it paid off before it's finished.
okay.
Scott, I've got a question.
Sure.
I've heard terms tonight, so you've used the terms in process. I'm not sure what that means. I get it, it's in process. I don't know if it means you turn paperwork in today, so it's in process, or it's almost at the end of the process, where something's gonna be signed off, and you said hopefully by summer.
Mm-hmm.
Summer means a lot of things.
Yeah.
So what do you mean by summer when you say you're gonna start construction?
Well, site work. The site work can
Well,
be done. All of
What
the.
time frame are you talking about? Are you talking about May? Is May summer?
That
Is
my
June, July?
my hope was in May that we would begin to see dirt turned as far as the site work goes.
That's your interpretation?
Yes.
By summer?
Mhm.
Okay, all right.
I think Penny kind of backed that up a little bit.
Yeah, I get it. I just hear a
Yeah.
lot of loose terms, and we get loose terms up here all the time, and we all have an understanding what we think it means. But
Listen,
not
y'all
necessarily
understand the
what you-
building industry more than I. I have my hopes and my
Yeah,
prayer.
I
It
don't.
does. I don't always get what I ask for, but you know that's what I'm
Not-
praying for.
None of us do, Scott.
I
None of us
agree with
do.
you.
Yeah.
And you know, I appreciate what Lance said about the 3 years, but I want to see this thing done. I don't want
Yeah.
you to come back here again.
Trust me, we do too. All of these people that are a part of it, they want to see it done
So I'll
too.
finish
Because
my
every time
statement.
we have to go to Spruce Creek Elementary on a rain out day or it's freezing outside, they all want to see it done as well. So I mean, we're all together on this.
Good?
I'm good.
Okay. Any last discussion? Do I need to bring up both motions to vote on?
We amended,
So we don't.
You
We just
voted
need
to
to
amend
do
it.
it with the amendment.
because we amended the motion.
You vote on the amendment first, then on the motion,
Yeah.
as amended.
So we don't need to bring up the first one. Okay, so we have a first and a second on the amended motion, and I get a roll call. If there's no other discussion, nobody from the public, we're good. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you so much.
Stan Schmidt,
Yes.
Scott Stager,
Yes.
Mark Bowling,
Yes.
Maureen Mills Bennett,
Yes.
Tom Jordan,
No.
Lance Green,
Yes.
Bill Mulvaney,
Yes.
Motion passes.
Now that was the amendment, so we're going to do the other original.
That was the amended motion.
No, that was the amendment.
Oh, the amendment.
And now you vote
we
on
need
the
to go-
amended main motion.
Yes, the amended yes. I'm all thrown off. Go ahead with the roll call, please.
Stan Schmidt,
Yes.
Scott Stager,
Yes.
Mark Bowling,
Yes.
Maureen Mills Bennett,
Yes.
Tom Jordan,
Yes.
Lance Green,
Yes.
Bill Mulvaney,
Yes.
Motion passes.
Let's get it done.
Thank you guys for coming in.
Where's everybody going?
Okay, let's get going.
We're gonna keep an eye on you, buddy. We're gonna have a special. He's doing good.
All right, next application. Can I get a motion? If it would load. For case number SUBD-23-0002, Harbor Landings Plat and Plans Approval of the Harbor Landing Subdivision Plat and Plans between Riverside Drive and Ridgewood Avenue.
Make a motion to approve case number SUBD 23-0002.
A second. Thank you, Steve.
All right, good evening, Penelope Cruz Planning. So before you is a request by the applicant to subdivide the subject 4.74 acres into 10 single-family lots and 16 townhome lots pursuant to the planned unit development, which was approved in August 2019 by the City Council, and that lays out the development framework for this this subdivision. The subject property is currently vacant. Like we said, it's zoned Harbor Landings planned unit development. It has a future land use of urban medium density. And the plans that are in your packet tonight have been designed pretty much exactly how the concept plan was in the PUD that was approved in 2019. And that subdivision includes 10-foot wide single-family lots, 50-foot wide, not 10-foot wide.
I was like, whoa.
We're not doing those
Lots of
super
narrow.
tiny homes, no.
Tiny home
10
community.
50-foot wide single-family lots along Riverside Drive and 16 40-foot wide lots for the townhomes internal to the subdivision. Private streets, 2 access points, one on Riverside Drive and one on Ridgewood Avenue. 5-foot sidewalks along Riverside and Ridgewood Avenue. Stormwater, utility infrastructure, 20-foot wide landscape buffer along Ridgewood and 10-foot wide landscape buffer along Riverside Drive and the north and south boundaries of the property. Open space, common areas and amenities for the residents, including visitor parking for the townhomes. They are providing slightly above what the code requires for tree preservation, including preserving all the historic trees. And they're in compliance with all city, state, and county regulations. Public facilities and services have been analyzed and they have capacity for the proposed development. This is kind of just a general rendering of what is proposed for the single-family units with 3-story detached houses. Townhomes are proposed to be 2-story. They would be in compliance with the 35-foot maximum height in the MDA and would be designed to meet the minimum floor elevations for the subdivision as far as the requirements with the city's floodplain management regulations in the code. As a reminder, subdivision plat and plans are a ministerial review, meaning that the approving body must only consider the technical criteria and lot dimensional requirements of the master development agreement and the land development code. The Harbor Landings plat and plans have been reviewed by the staff development review committee and determined to be designed in accordance with the land development code and the MDA. Therefore, staff is recommending approval, and the applicant is here to answer any questions you may have.
Questions for Penny? Stan?
No.
Scott?
Nope.
Mark?
Yes. On US 1,
Mm-hmm.
for the entrance there, the decel lane,
Mhm.
they're gonna put in a new decel lane there, and is the developer carrying the whole cost on that, or are they gonna look for a share agreement with the city?
No, we're not, the city, they're not asking for any money for the city. I don't
Okay.
believe there's a decel lane, well, it's a small one, yeah, there, but, just in front there. They also are required to make just some median improvements here that were designed and required by FDOT, but that's part of their development requirements. The city doesn't contribute to any of that.
Okay, so there will be a turn if you're heading south through, you'll be able to turn in if you're heading south as well?
No, so, no, not from
You
here.
need
So
turn
this
the
is,
separate
this lane, can you see my cursor moving?
Yeah.
Okay.
A little bit.
So this was required, right now it's just it's open. DOT required this safety improvement here so that if you're going north, you can turn into Farmbrook, and from Farmbrook, you can turn left out, but this is not to turn into the development. You can't do that from here. You would have to go a little bit further down and turn.
Go further down and make a U-turn,
Mm-hmm.
don't necessarily
But
like that.
this is what DOT requires. It's a state road, so we're bound by that.
They're smart.
That's all I have for now.
Okay.
Tom.
As I recall, when this project came forward, I think the concerns we had, pardon me, were the streets are private inside. But we were concerned about the parking for guests,
And
for
they,
visitors, but it meets code.
it's above code. So
It's
code.
above code.
Code requires 4 visitor spaces. They're providing 6.
Right,
Plus, they're providing the spaces that are required on the properties.
right, which even 6 I don't think is enough, but, and then the streets they meet code, but aren't they kinda narrow?
So as part of the PUD, the PUD that was approved allowed the full right-of-way width to be a little
Right.
bit smaller so that they don't have the sidewalks on either side, but
Yeah,
the pavement
that's
width
right.
is,
That's
the
right.
pavement
That's
width is
right.
the same and fire approved and
Yeah.
everything.
Which I totally dislike, but it
It's kind of a small,
is, yeah. I guess.
nobody even uses the sidewalks in my neighborhood. Everybody walks in the street, which
mine
is
too,
frustrating.
so, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I have one issue with this in general,
Okay.
and it's come to light through my experiences and with what we've done in Port Orange before, and I'm dealing with some issues in Ormond, and it has to do with the historic trees, okay? And we have 2 of these lots that have tree wells around 2 historic trees, and in my opinion, those are a mistake, okay? They don't work, straight up. I went to that site today and I looked at the trees, because I'm dealing with it in Ormond right now, and again, somebody could go out and get an arborist out there right now and tell you that it's gonna die, but to have these two lots try and protect those two trees does several things. Number one, it deteriorates from the lot, because it makes the lot, it's bad for the lot itself, because now you have a hole in the lot with a tree well. The tree is going to die, okay? The tree well is only 26 feet. That tree is well beyond 26 feet in canopy. And we tried that when we first built the Walmart at the corner of Nova and Dunlawton, and we tried to protect trees in that parking lot. They didn't work. They don't work. So in my opinion, those two trees need to be sacrificed however it goes. Put those lots back to being straight up lots like the other 10, okay? And calculate some trees somewhere else on that site, okay? Because those two tree wells are not going to work in my opinion.
We did have our landscape architect review that design, and it was recommended that they would be successful.
Yeah, but they're 5 feet in the ground. They're not going to work. I'm just, you know, and here's the deal. So after, and this is also what I learned. So once that guy builds a house on that lot, that tree no longer becomes a historic tree. It now becomes his property, and he can tear it down if he wants to without any permit and without any repercussion. Oh, yes, ma'am, he can. Well, I know in City of Ormond, this what came up. If it's a single family lot, it's not a historical tree anymore.
That's not accurate. You have to have, the state law was changed about a year ago, and the only way you can take out a tree, any kind of tree, on a single family property, with an arborist report only, is if there is a target that it's creating an impact to a target, and a target is like actual property.
It is though,
So-
because the lots are so small.
So it
That's
just,
what I'm getting at.
it would depend, on what's happening, but they can't just take it out without having gone through that analysis.
I'm just, it's my opinion that we would be better served to either pay into the tree bank and or take those calipers, it's 51 inch and a 23 inch, and spread those calipers out on the rest of the site elsewhere. So when it does mature, it matures into something that's better looking than two trees in that lot that are gonna die.
We good?
I'm good.
Bo?
This is an informational question, Penny. On a school concurrency, there are guidelines, and is the criteria for that the same for all properties? And this is just for my information. For instance,
It's the
if
same
there was-
countywide.
Oh, so if
All
you
the
had,
school
if there was a
concurrency.
senior,
No,
Okay.
so it only applies to residential property, school concurrency. There are exemptions for developments that are 10 units or less, and there are exemption for age-restricted communities, but you have to have deed restrictions on the property.
okay, I see. So senior, if that was a senior family or.
But
a
they would have to
senior-
prove that they have deed restrictions that go, for several years. Like I think the school requires a minimum of 30+ years. We'd like to see more than that if we're gonna make you exempt from school
Okay,
concurrency.
got it, thank you.
Okay. Everybody good with Penny? We have a presentation or a,
The applicant's here if you have questions.
anybody have questions for the applicant?
Good afternoon, Cody Bogart from Newkirk Engineering, the engineer of record, here representing the applicant as well. I am here to answer any questions. I don't have a presentation. Penny did a good job of explaining. I know drainage is a large concern, and I'd like to hear the concerns of the citizens first, and I can answer all of them collectively at the end. Same thing with traffic, about the median out there in US 1. Other than that, I'll be happy to answer any of your questions right now.
Yeah, since you brought up drainage, I know that the main drainage for stormwater is going underneath Riverside, I believe, right? Are you gonna drill that? You gonna open cut that? What are you gonna?
There is an existing in the Fozzard right-of-way, which is on the north side of the property, which is city-owned right-of-way that's undeveloped and what we've been told will never be developed into a roadway. Has an existing ditch that goes to a culvert pipe, 24-inch culvert pipe that already goes under the road into the river, and we'll be draining to that ditch in the right-of-way that then goes out to the river.
So you're draining into a ditch, and the ditch picks up the culvert and goes under the Riverside Drive and then into the river from there.
Yes. That's how the site drains currently. The site drains currently now to the right of way up to the road, then to that ditch.
Okay.
Does that water ever back up?
It does, it's tidal influenced, obviously, as being that close to the river, so,
King tide would
yes.
flood it. I got it.
And that's taken into consideration in our calculations, with our boundary conditions. So we look at that with our stormwater design to see how much our site can flow and then even how much our site can back up onto it. So any water that we would be pushing from our ponds that most see is happening, it would actually stage up and back up into our stormwater system, until everything else recedes, just as a global system would.
How much backs up from the river?
Calculation wise, it varies tide to tide, but I mean,
Okay.
we can see it,
Would we
see it out
consider
there.
Putting like one of those duckbill so that the water can't flow backwards and just flows out?
So you're saying you don't want our site to help the global system and back up into it?
I don't want the river flowing back into the ponds. I'd rather have it so that when the water leaves the site, it leaves the site, not comes back onto the site.
Well, I mean, most stormwater ponds, especially wet detention, but you know, these are dry. But once it reaches a certain elevation, water's gonna do its thing, right? So
Yeah.
our site's gonna hold back as much as possible, and then if it goes over that much as possible, then you know it will.
Then-
in a 100-year storm situation,
Yeah.
you're talking. Most sites flood. I mean, they're designed to make sure that they're not affecting off-site properties.
I'm aware of that, but we haven't considered that at all. Have we? I mean, I would prefer that the water not come back on site if we could prevent it at this point.
I think regulations kind of hold me to not do that.
Okay.
Any other questions for him?
Go ahead.
So, again, I wanna talk back to that drainage issue and about that ditch. So is that ditch on this property?
It was slightly, and we're coordinating with staff to move it and keep the effective width of it. So we're cleaning up some jurisdictional maintenance problems there, and then making it also.
Cause currently that ditch doesn't work. I mean, I don't know if it's clogged or if it doesn't go anywhere, but does it really truly go under the road?
Yeah, it is an equalizer pipe that flows underneath. So there's no large conveyance pushing it, but it is a.
Cause what I noticed on this site was you're pushing all your water to the west, to the ponds, and into the ponds, but the bottom of the pond elevation is 3.5.
Yes,
And the river is at what?
0 to plus.
Yeah. So are the ponds gonna always be wet?
No. So the soils out there, we have geotechnical borings that show the water table, and in these sandy conditions, just like most of Port Orange, it ebbs and flows with the river, and also ebbs and flows with the water table. So they're designed to be above that water table to where they can still soak into the ground, usually horizontally, right? So those ponds will recover in the 72 hours that we're allowed to, but I think these ponds recover in 40 hours.
So during a high tide, there won't be hydrostatic pressure that's gonna keep the bottom of the pond already wet?
That's taken into consideration with the geotechnical borings that we get. And
It is?
then we have that factor of safety that we go above and beyond.
Because I was kinda surprised that the bottom of the pond was at 3.5. I mean, I just thought that was low in relationship to the river. You know, not necessarily to the site, but to the river.
Well, from a pressure standpoint, the waters want to go to open atmosphere in the river before it goes through soil on any site. So,
Okay. All right, thank you.
Are these homes, that are being built, are they in stem wall or how?
Yeah.
slabs?
yes.
Yeah, they
They'll be
are.
on foundation exposure, stem wall foundations.
Saw that in here.
Yeah, the reality of that lot is, it takes a ton of water in tides and rains. A lot of it comes from other properties that drain onto it. I know that's not your problem, but that's the reality. So down the road, what's gonna happen is the neighbors are just gonna start complaining about that building, the building on this lot have caused flooding on the other properties, which we hear all the time. And the engineers will tell you, well, we're taking all the water that comes onto our property. The reality is this property right now takes a whole bunch of water from the other properties around it.
And we are doing right-of-way work on Riverside Drive that lets us, sump it a little bit more and kind of give a nice roadway swale and a culvert pipe on our driveway, which I know the previous homes didn't have any culverting or any type of swale issues. Those have been demolished. So we're providing a little bit more storage next to the road that gets to that ditch a little quicker and more efficiently.
Yeah, it's not gonna be pretty down the road though. That's all.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Comments from the public, please come up and state your name and address. You first.
You first, go ahead. I have pictures, I just don't know how to get them to you.
My name is Brenda Wilson. I live at 5610 Riverside Drive. You guys had the map up earlier. I am just to the north of the property, where the city's Fozzard Boulevard is not cut through. I am to the property just north of that. And I am concerned about drainage and flooding because we've lived there since 2012. I've seen that lot flood and be underwater for several days. And in all of those storms that we've had, hurricanes and just regular storms, the water has come up in my property, but my house is not flooded. So I am concerned about the growth on that lot. So any kind of consideration, because I don't want to flood.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, Fran? All right. I'm Joanne Horn, and I live in Harbor Point. Harbor Point is a circle right off of Riverside Drive. I have pictures that can show you that at a king tide,
You can
that
hand
water,
them to me if you want.
the water.
Oh, I
flows.
thought they were actual pictures.
I didn't have
Yeah.
anything to print them on.
We don't really have any way to look at that, so.
Well, let me just show you how much the ducks love that lot. And then there is a king tide. This is my neighbors in a kayak on Riverside Drive because it floods if we have a heavy rain, if we have a king tide.
Okay, can you go back to speak in the mic, please, just to make sure we get you on record?
I have a lot of pictures because I walk my dog on Riverside Drive down the street. I have grandchildren that live up the street and they're expected to get from Seminole, which is where the school bus drops them off, and walk to their home, which is Point Court right up the street, in these floods. And the ducks love the lot because it fills with water every time it rains or you have a king tide. Riverside Drive is underwater all the time. So your answer to that was to dig a hole all along Harbor Point to catch this much water. It doesn't work. We had 3 days of rain. We got only 1.5 inches, and everything was flooded again. I don't know why they came in and dug this hole. It looks like hell all along Riverside Drive at my house. Let me show you that one too. And
We
this-
can't speak to what they did for past flooding.
No, I'm not, but that's what they call drainage for Riverside Drive. There's this little tiny mess, and then along Harbor Point, they dig a hole there. And that's not helping either. The water has nowhere else to go. The road is too low. And the people that are gonna buy these houses along Riverside Drive are gonna be flooded. Every time there's a king tide, every time we have a heavy rain. And I've been there for 33 years. And the king tides just keep getting worse every year and higher, to say nothing of the hurricanes that we had. We couldn't get in and out of our neighborhood. I mean, I stayed through the whole thing, but the roads were flooded. So what do? They come and they put cones up and say you can't go up and down the road. So unless you have a kayak, you can't get out of my neighborhood. And that's why I oppose it. I just think it's wrong because they will all flood.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Fran Fight. I live at 5679 Riverside Drive. I'm the first single-family house, Harbor Point, the Big Bay, that's my house next. I've lived there for 43 years. I've seen homeless people in that lot. I've seen drug deals in that lot. I watch people make wheelies in that lot. So I really would love to see something beautiful across the street from me, and it hasn't been for 43 years. However, on a good rainstorm, that river comes over the banks. I mean, I could have brought photographs too, I didn't think of it. The river comes over the banks. It takes weeks after a rainstorm for that lot to dry out Kids are in there doing wheelies. I mean, I'm out there trying to stop that. It's a crazy area. The last storm, they said that Ian was going to be a tropical storm. You know, normally we prepare better for a hurricane down in that area, but that was a tropical storm. My area doesn't get hurt unless the wind's coming out of the northeast. But boy, that lot on a daily basis, if it's raining, it's flooded there. You know, what's going to happen if they build that land up? What's going to happen after that? The trees that are there, they're 200-year-old trees. I mean, I know what they are. I also watched one of them die over there, and there was a rumor that it didn't die naturally. That's heartbreaking to me. I'm torn. Do I want something beautiful across the street from me after living there for 43 years? Yeah, I'd love to see something beautiful, but I don't want something beautiful to ruin the rest of our neighborhood. Riverside's a quiet little street. You know, once there was going to be a wall up there and then all the traffic was going to go on Ridgewood, okay, that's great. It's been 43 years of frustration. When I first moved in there, the first year, I paid $900 to stop what was going to happen over there. That was 43 years ago. And every day it's like another, oh my God, what are they going to build there now? So I'm perplexed, but I don't want to see that area get any worse than it is. I mean, I don't know what the answer is, but I sure hope that somebody in engineering is going to do a thoughtful job that's not going to make it worse than it is now. I mean, that water, that's our retention pond. To be honest with you, that's a $2 million retention pond over there, and that's what it's been for all these years. If I owned that lot, I'd be really angry. I mean, I would. But I live on the other side of the street where the water comes in. So that's all I got. Pictures? If you need pictures, I got 43 years of them. If you'd like those, I'd be happy to bring them the next time. Thank you for your time.
Anyone else? Robert?
Commissioners, Robert Reinhagen, 1425 Dexter Drive, Port Orange. On page 51 of the agenda packet, it talks about the stem wall. It says stem wall foundation designed by others. And then there's another place where it says stem wall foundation east side recommended for lots 1 to 10. It sounds like a setup to me when that land, you know, those buildings sink into the swamp, that guy's not going to take responsibility for it. That we've bought it because it's designed by somebody else. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Anyone else?
Good evening, Council. My name is Bob Thomas. I live at 1102 Harbor Point Drive in the Harbor Point subdivision. I'm also the Vice President of the Homeowners Association. Just a clarifying question from the packet. I think there was a paragraph near the end that talked about riparian rights. I don't know if we could look at that or read that for the group. My question about that, it talks about no docks or no riparian rights as it stands for that area. However, if the owners petition for adjacent riparian rights, could someone explain to us, or if it's the right place, what that means? Because we do have a tight area in that between, I think, this lady's home and our property. Just trying to understand what the future could be and who owns that property on the east side of Riverside Drive. Is that something you could help us understand, just what will happen down there if this project does go through?
Penny, you want to answer that for us? Yeah. Okay. Are you finished?
Yes,
Okay,
just like
thank
to
you so
understand
much.
more about it. Thank you.
We'll have Penny come up and,
Okay.
just so we don't misspeak.
One more question. How does anybody get on the list to find out what's going on in this area? Because the only way I found out about it today was someone called and said there was an HOA meeting over in Harbor Point that said that they knew what was going on.
So usually it's listed, there's a sign, it's posted, it's listed on the city website, it's in the paper. We can have somebody talk to you about that
We don't really see
afterwards.
signs over there at all. when there's something going on, unless there was, one time years ago, there was a variance, we saw that, but we haven't seen a sign over there
If
in
you go to the
years.
city website, though, you can find all of the meetings and all of the agendas
Agendas.
and the
I would
agenda
love to
packet
find
for
how
each
to
and
get on
it's,
that, but-
directly on the city website.
Thank you.
Okay, any, Penny, can you come back up and any more public? We're good? Oh, no, we're not good. I've known it was gonna be this many.
My name is Virginia Tootin, and I live at 1110 Harbor Point Drive. I'm a part of the Harbor Point Homeowners Association. I've lived there for 26 years. Over the past few years, we have seen greater and greater flooding coming off of Riverside Drive, coming from the river, coming all the way down behind, on Riverside Drive down. And now it comes, I live inside of there, and last year during the hurricane, because there's no place else for this water to go, it was up to my garage in the front. And of course, then I had water coming off of the river up to my patio in the back. I'm very concerned about the water and the drainage. We have drainage problems already, as all the people in here have stated. And when you start putting more and more buildings and more water to run out, you're just creating a problem for all of us. Insurance is high enough. Mine just went up another $2,000 to $5,000 a year. Once I'm flooded, I probably won't be able to stay there because the cost will continue to rise. My next concern is too, because we have a beautiful little area in there, the majority of us are retired people. We take really good care of Harbor Point. We protect it. And I see our community becoming a walkway for all of those people, because they're not going to walk their dogs on US 1. They're not going to walk their dogs on Riverside Drive because it's too busy and it's going to be a traffic jam there anyway, going in and out. So Harbor Point is going to become a trail for them. Unfortunately, the powers to be some 30 years ago signed our streets, our private streets, over to the city. And so now we don't have any control over them. But I see us becoming their park and their place to take a walk. So we're going to get flooded. We're going to have strange people in our community all the time walking their dogs that they don't pick up. We're going to become their walking area. We're going to get their water, and now we're going to get all the residue from them walking and using our community as a place to enjoy taking a walk in. And I do hope that the city will consider that. Harbor Point has been a beautiful community and a beautiful taken care of part of the city of Port Orange, and we would like for it to remain that way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay.
Penelope Cruz, Planning. So, to address the gentleman's question, so typically properties that are adjacent to water have riparian rights, the rights to be able to use the adjacent property adjacent to the water for water dependent type features like docks and things. When this property first came in for the PUD review, as part of the submittal, you have to provide the deeds and things like that for the property. The city has not been satisfied to this point that as part of the ownership of this property that they actually have obtained riparian rights as part of the ownership of the land. And so that's why the plans are not allowed at this point to have any kind of docks or anything like that, because there has not been sufficient documentation provided to us that they actually have real riparian rights. So unless that occurs, unless they provide documentation that satisfies the attorney's office that they do have those rights, they will not be able to have a dock. So that's what addresses that question. With regards to the lady that was requesting about notification. So like I said, this property was under review for a long time under the PUD review, the zoning review, and there was big yellow signs up on both sides of the road for many months, almost a whole year on that. And during that process, there's a phone number, and we kept a spreadsheet of everybody that wanted to be notified. As I said in my presentation, once your zoning is approved and you get to plat and plans, it's a ministerial review. There's no requirements for posting of signs and things like that. We aren't technically even required to notify anybody, but because staff knew that people were interested in this development, and they notified us during the PUD process that, hey, can you keep us notified as it progresses forward? We did go ahead and notify everybody that was on that list that had called us in and gave us their phone number and email, and I've had people call me over the years, what's going on? We haven't seen anything. And I'm like, nothing's going on. Nothing's been submitted. But as soon as it was moving forward, we did notify everybody on that. Was there one more question that I'm missing? I think that might have been it.
I don't.
Who does that land belong to?
It's an LLC. I don't know if you have the exact. It's an LLC. I don't know the exact name of
It's
the
about
owner
this
under
land
that.
or the land on the
Tylo
river?
Investment
one
Yeah.
that they're
LLC.
not
Oh, I'm
right
sorry.
there.
Yes, the Lomans purchased it. Yes, the Lomans purchased the property. It used to be a different owner, but I think maybe a year or so ago, the Loman family purchased it. The other now I remember the other comment about places for the dog walking and stuff like that. This is a PUD, so they are required to have the open space and the common open space. So they do have green areas on there. They have a gazebo area and things like that. So there are facilities that are required to be provided for residents in the PUD here. So.
Got it.
And that's on the Ridgewood side of that project. From what I saw on this plan, it's all on the US 1 side, correct?
Mostly kind of
Yeah.
like on the side and,
Yeah.
and yeah, more on the western
Looks
side.
like there's a
Mhm.
little bit on Riverside, but
Mhm.
yeah, not much. Okay, correct me if I'm wrong, but when you have a project like this that on a piece of property that already floods all the time, like I feel like, and maybe I'm totally off base here, but I feel like all of the things they're putting on the property to help with drainage is going to help the surrounding people.
Yeah, I think generally I would concur with you, but the engineer can probably come and give you a more detailed answer. They aren't they're not allowed by law to provide it to drain more, provide more stormwater off the property than it currently does now. So it has to hold the same amount of water it does post-development than it does pre-development.
Got it.
And the city's got a little bit higher design standard than some of the other agencies where we require them to design to the 100-year storm. Typically, I know some of the engineers usually put a little bit of a buffer above that too. But I'm sure Cody can kind of get into the weeds on that if you need to, better than I can.
I just feel like this area has always flooded
Mm.
so badly, like
And
a
our-
project
yeah.
like this might actually help that.
And like
But-
as you know, the staff development review committee is composed of many engineers, not just one. There's multiple engineers in the cities from the public utilities and public works side. Their crew, we've got the community development engineers. There's many engineers involved in the review that ensure that they don't sign off on a plan unless it meets all the requirements.
Are you saying that the volume of water before the construction or after the construction has to equal the water before?
They have to be
Can't
able
big
to
ponds.
hold as much water on property after as they do before. They can't displace anymore.
So like,
It's got to match pre-post.
like putting in ponds and that sort of thing?
Yeah,
What-
they've got, I think, 3 dry ponds and a stormwater system that deals with the stormwater before it gets, discharged into the ditch. But Cody's here. He's the expert he designed it, so he can probably answer any questions you have.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Penny.
Thank you. Cody Bogart from Newkirk Engineering again. Yes, just like Penny said and Bo questioned, we are required to have a net improvement. So whatever we do, we have to reduce it. So it's not just meet, they want to see reduction factors. I can tell you right now for the modeled rain events, which are your heavier thunderstorms to the very heavy, tropical storm type storms from that. And so I'm starting out for 5 inches of rainfall. That's quite a bit of rain. I haven't seen that in a while, but if 5 inches of rain were to hit our site, we're reducing almost, I'll round down, but 35% of the water. So most of that water you see on site in those heavy rain events are hitting the site, filling up the soil, and then eventually falling to the right of way, and that's the water you see on the surface as it sits today. We're reducing 40% of that and keeping it on site into our retention ponds. In the heavier rain events, it's 14% and 14%. So it's not as much, but it is a very good reduction. We always try to hit that 10% reduction factor in the post-development.
So Cody, what I'm hearing is that this site, the construction on the site, really has no impact on the neighborhood around it because it's water neutral. Is that right?
Correct. Whatever impervious area we put down, so the concrete roads.
So they're gonna get the same amount of water whether that development's there or not?
Hopefully less. We're designed to hold back water and impact less. So we're trying to reduce the amount of water that flows to Riverside Drive right now
You're
from our
talking
property.
rainwater.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, rainwater.
Lance?
No, I mean, here's the deal. You got to look at the topo of the land now, and unfortunately for the residents who come and spoke with us and about this flooding issue, is the property sits at elevation 3 and 3.5 right now. I mean, and the road is elevation 3. These houses are going to be at elevation 7 and 7.5, I think I saw, and the tops of the pond is going to be at elevation 7. So unfortunately, as it lays there very, very low, and the road's very, very low, and a majority of the flooding and the water issues on that street are coming from the river, not coming from the other side. They're not coming from the rain. They come from these issues that we're having with Mother Nature. We're depicted on the river for our drainage, straight up. That's as close as you can get to it. So what you see in the elevations of the properties, they're raising the grade of this property to compensate that water from the low grade that the road is and the low grade that the property is now. The property is very low right now, if I'm correct, right? I mean, it's at 3.5.
The eastern third of it is low, and then it raises up to 7 at Ridgewood.
So you see, it's a very low piece of property to start with. They're jacking all the property up and all the houses up to keep that water on that property.
But that doesn't impact the neighborhood.
No.
Correct.
So
they can't by
that's
code.
It keeps the water in our ponds for a longer period of time, and then slowly releases it to the soil, which slowly releases it to where it goes now. So we're slowing down the rate at which the water leaves the site, which would benefit the surrounding water that's rushing in between and through the right-of-way and river.
Yeah, I just wanted to understand that. Thank you.
Tom?
I have a question for Penny, actually.
Oh, I'm sorry. I
That's okay.
totally forgot.
Yeah.
Mark?
I'm good.
Scott?
Good.
Stan?
So the wild card in this whole thing is what's gonna happen when the river rises. And that's, you're trying to do as best you can with that, but there's not a lot you can do, right? I mean, you've got the houses in there, you're gonna raise those up. But will that create like a dam where it forces more of that water onto the neighboring properties?
So that's where I said the eastern third is low,
Right.
As mentioned before, and we're keeping that the same elevation while raising the rest of the site to push the water that the site
Pushing
generates
it towards
into
the
our
river
pond.
anyway.
So we're pushing water into our site, not off to our. So we're pulling water off.
Well,
Better
I'm
way to
just,
phrase it.
again, just kinda echoing what we're hearing from the neighbors, cause they're gonna be saying that it's because of you guys that this is going on. And what you're telling them is that we're trying to do whatever we can to hold that water, and we have to hold the water.
Correct. We have to
So-
hold more water than it does right now.
So that's that's how you're designing to build it, and that's what have to let the neighbors know that, we're doing what we can, we're doing what we're required to do.
Correct.
It's not just slapping something in there, and if you flood out, well, too bad, that's not what's going on.
Have you guys had a neighborhood meeting?
Back in the PUD process,
Oh,
we
got
did.
it. I thought there was, but it's been a while. Okay. Anything
it.
else? Okay, I think we're
Thank you.
good, thank you. Penny? Tom had a question.
Yeah, I just wanna make, my question actually, just to clarify, is we had approved the PUD and the MDA
2019.
that long ago.
Yeah, I know.
I know, that's what I was
Wow.
like.
COVID kind of just messes everything up.
Yeah,
sometimes. Forget
all we're
fears.
looking at today, that's done.
That
All we're
was
looking
done.
at today is, does the proposal meet the technical requirements defined by the MDA and the PUD?
Correct. Today is a plat and plans. It is what's considered a ministerial review. We are by Florida statutes bound to approve it if it meets the technical and dimensional criteria of the MDA and the LDC. We wouldn't be here in front of you if it doesn't. We don't bring anything to Planning Commission until it has no significant technical comments and it meets those criteria.
Thanks.
Perfect, thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second.
Good evening.
Pauline Falzone, 1222 Harbor Point Drive. I agree with everybody said about the flooding, but I have other concerns. Harbor Point Drive is all one level, single-story houses. The other side of us on Riverside Drive are all single-story houses. The other side of the community, single-story, you have a few double. Why would we want to see our lovely little community with 10 three-story townhouses? That's taking away from the beauty of the area. Not to mention, we've got old people. Look, our community is mostly elderly. Riverside Drive has a lot of kids. We now have 10 single-family homes and 16 townhouses. The traffic that's going to be on that little area is going to be ridiculous. It's a walking area. We all walk around there. We all walk dogs around there. Kids are always playing around there. You're now introducing that size community to the neighborhood. It just will not fit in with the rest of the area. Maybe onto Ridgewood, but all this is on Riverside. Riverside has enough problems. We have to watch the traffic. But I just think we're introducing too many homes. How many cars, how many bedrooms do these homes have? 3 bedrooms? You're looking at two cars, a family, if not 3, in our little community. We have enough now. We don't need to add that much more. Townhouses, 16 townhouses, 2 cars each. There's not going to be enough. And as one gentleman said, 6 visitors parking? No, that's not going to work. What it's going to work is they're all going to be parking on Riverside Drive, which is already congested as it is. And as I said, older community. It's all 65 years and up. Where are these people going to go walking? I just think the concept of a development is good, but having worked 30 years in construction, this is not good for the neighborhood. And I think if anybody walked down there, they could see it's just not going to look nice at all. It's going to ruin our little neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I show you one more picture?
Sorry, public comments have to be closed at this point. I'm sorry. I have a motion and a second. Can I get roll call, please?
Stan Schmidt,
Yes.
Scott Seeger,
Yes.
Mark Bowling,
Yes.
Maria Mills Bennett,
Yes.
Tom Jordan.
Yes.
Lance Green,
Yes.
Bobo Family.
Yes.
Motion passes. Other business, commissioner comments. Anything, Bo?
No, not at this time.
Lance?
Nope.
No signs? No nothing?
Not right now.
Tom?
No, man, thank you.
Mark?
No.
Scott?
I'm good.
Stan? Nothing? Staff comments? Nothing, Tim? Nothing for us? Any public comments generally, not about any of the projects?
I can't talk about the project. I mean,
It's already been voted on.
If it floods, where do we go?
yeah, when the
Call
road is
him.
flooded
Yeah.
and people can't get out of their house.
The engineer.
Engineer.
Yeah, I mean,
Any
that's
other
the
public
thing.
comments? Robert, nothing? Nope. All right, motion to adjourn.
Second.
Meeting adjourned.